3, 2, 1.
Wise crackers.
Wise crackers.
Wise crackers.
Wise crackers.
Wise crackers. Wise crackers. Starting now.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the second NBA segment of Let's Get Crackin'. It's your boy LBJ, Lil Baby Jesus. I'm here with Rich Gang, Daniel, the Honorable Cap No Cap, Big Rich, a.k.a. Rest One. Any other AKAs you want to get off? I'm not sure.
AKA Frito Bandito.
Frito Bandito.
Or Frito right here.
Let's get right into it. First segment, the Warriors earlier this week were blown out by over 50 points to the Boston Celtics. Are the Warriors done? Is that it? Is that the sign of it? I would say this game would have said a lot more if we didn't know what happened directly after, which is the Celtics blew a 20-point lead to the Cavs, and then the Warriors beat an almost full-strength Bucks with Giannis and Dame by 30. So it kind of, to me, tells us what we already knew, which was that the Warriors can turn it on, but they probably won't. And the Celtics should win the championship, but they probably won't. I don't know. Anyone else have any inputs on that?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, the definition of the Warriors season was the Celtics loss and then beating the Bucks. Those two games back to back is the literal definition of the season. It's been very, very up and then very, very down. We've had great highlights, and the low moments have been, oh my God, this is the worst that the Warriors have looked. Trace Jackson-Davis, Brendan Pajinski, like all great new additions to the team. I could go on about the young roster, and even Jonathan Kuminga, who honestly right now, probably the second best player on the team. Overall, you can look at the roster on paper and say, theoretically, I mean, the team looks great as the names and whatnot, but we're the 10th seed. And basically what has to happen in March, or what had to happen maybe a couple weeks ago, was that we basically had to, through momentum, have a perfect month. Not only has that not been the case, but Steph Curry is kind of losing steam. He's losing steam because he's had to carry the team the entire year so far. He's had 60-point games. He's had massive games where he's come up clutch, and he's had to shoot and take a lot of shots and carry a roster more so than he ever has in his entire career. He's had a lot of help in 2015, 2016, even whenever he's had games, whenever he's had 40 points and averaged a massive amount of scoring, but the team was different back then. And now he's at a point where he has to do so much, and he's getting older. It doesn't help that his team needs him at a way higher volume than what it was before. Now that they're the 10th seed, I think you really start to see that the league is different now. I don't know. It's definitely a new era. And like you said, I mean, the Boston Celtics they're a good team, but I do think something is missing. If one of y'all can talk about that a little bit more about the Celtics.
What I seen from that Warriors and Celtics game off rip was the Warriors just had a hard time stopping the Celtics from getting into transition and hitting timely threes. And what I also seen was the Celtics being able to just get more and more possessions, just being able to dominate a small Warriors team that just has not been able to rebound well all season. When you're not able to rebound well, all that's going to do is just give the team extra possessions. And that's what's been the catalyst for all of their losses. The game against the Hawks is another situation like that, where you're not getting rebounds, you're not being able to get the guys in transition. A lot of it is standstill basketball, watching Steph go to work. Andrew Wiggins, even in the games where the Warriors do well, he's not a reason for that, and he should be the second best player on the team. Like you said, Jonathan Kuminga has stepped up into that position, but even when going in that position, he's still so young. He's going to have off nights. He's going to have bad games, and games where he really needs to go off, he's not going to be able to, because now teams are starting to pinpoint his strengths and weaknesses. They're not going to let him get into the paint where he's really his best. They're not going to let him get into that dunker spot where Draymond can set him up for an easy lob. He's going to have to shoot the ball, and he has to get better at shooting the ball so that he can be a better wing to the Warriors. He's got to also be able to get into that paint, serve his position, and try to get extra possessions so that this team can score more, because what you're seeing right now is a team that goes from one night scoring 130 on best team in the East to scoring 110 against the Pelicans, the Hawks going into overtime, and then having games like the Bulls where you lose that game on the second of a back-to-back because you put all your marbles into the Bucks game. You wanted to show that you can beat a team like the Bucks, but then you go against the Bulls the very next night and you're gassed out because not only did Klay Thompson not play well against the Bucks, I'm pretty sure he didn't do well against the Bulls as well. So you're looking at that situation like, who's going to step up for this team outside of Stephen Curry, outside of Draymond Green, and outside of Jonathan Kuminga? Because you got a lot of decent players, but these guys got to really come through. Like this is put up a shut up time. I understand a lot of these guys are young, but when you sign up to be on a team like the Warriors, you ain't got a chance to grow up, bro. You got to come there ready to win right now.
Klay was the leading scorer in the Bucks loss.
I'm looking at right now in the Bulls loss. He actually had 25. Chris Paul had a pretty good game too, but Stephen Curry only had 15. Andrew Wiggins once again had a shitty game. Jonathan Kuminga had a double-double, but it just wasn't enough, bro.
Yeah, Wiggins has been extremely disappointing this year.
Now they're giving up 33 to Vucevic, and DeMar DeRozan is not going to help your case. And then 20 and 7, Kobe White.
I actually blame Steve Kerr a little bit for this. He's an excellent coach, don't get me wrong, but he seems to be an excellent coach when everything's going right. When he's got high-end talent, when he's able to play one specific way. A bit like Phil Jackson. And don't get me wrong, like, he's been put in a very difficult position this year. But there's been occasions where Jonathan Kuminga's been taking over games, and then for no reason whatsoever, he just pulls them out of the game. And I can't wrap my head around why that is, other than it's just basically the team is Steph Curry's team, and if we're not playing the way Steph Curry likes, then we need to. We can't let anyone else take over the game. It just seems very strange to me that their best run recently was when Kuminga was dragging them through games. And yeah, I absolutely agree with Richie that Steph has done that for the first half of the season, no doubt. But there is a bit of tread on the tyres now, and he does need to rest up a little bit because of the weight that he's been asked to lift. But it feels like Steve Kerr's reluctance to allow some of these young players to really shine, put them in the position to play to their strengths.
Like you said, Steve Kerr just kind of goes, I have some ideas, but we got to keep Steph happy. And I feel like that's why he put so much trust in Klay for so long, even when it was obvious he should have been benched a long time ago. I think there was one point where Klay had been benched the whole fourth quarter. Steve Kerr puts him in anyway. Towards the end, Klay has like one of the worst fouls to pretty much lose the game, like intentional fouls. Mm-hmm. Klay's got to get some minutes because he's a top 100 player. So, but
it just feels like there's no real identity with the Warriors this year, and it shouldn't be a surprise because at the end of last season, Steve Kerr was interviewed and he said, "I've taken this team as far as they can go. Something needs to change," and not much has really changed. So he kind of told you who they were going to be last year. And I think when people tell you who they are, at some point you have to believe them. While there's that thing in the back of my head of, Warriors were proud champions and they're not going to go down without a fight, this Warriors team is not that Warriors team. And probably the most impressive I saw them was against the Lakers. And they lost that game, but they showed real heart in that game. And that was a great game. That was one of my favorite games of the season. That was the team where you think, okay, if that team turns up, you're in trouble. They can do damage, but just don't know if we're going to see that team over a 7-game series. I'm losing my faith in the team.
Also, a footnote to that Bulls game against the Warriors. Steph actually hurt his ankle, and I know it's been reported that it's not serious. He's only expected to miss a couple games, but I'm curious to see what that team looks like without Steph. I know we've kind of seen it in a couple games this year where he hasn't played, but it's still curious to see how they play without Steph. Does Pajemski go to the point guard and does Klay go back in the starting? Or are they going to keep him off the bench? I think just start Moses Moody and Pajemski at 1 and 2. And kind of to what all y'all's points, the game against the Bucks, man, I think, Richie, I was on the phone with you while it was happening, and I was just in awe because Steve Kerr puts in Trace Jackson-Davis. He immediately blocks Giannis 2 times in a row and has an alley-oop dunk at the other end.
He's fantastic.
He's amazing. Also noted, he barely played that game. I just feel like Kevon Looney, also another player that at the 2022 run, he was spectacular as a role player. But I feel like this year he's kind of not really been the same.
That's
So-
that's the first thing you said when you called me too. Like I picked up the phone, I was like, "Hello," and you were just like, "Why does Steve Kerr keep benching Trace Jackson Davis?"
What does he do? Like,
yeah, I was like, "Why? Why?"
The lead keeps
Good.
getting bigger, and then he takes him out, and then the Bucks come back. It's just like, come on, play your young players. But I think that's goes to Rich's point, the identity. Like we don't know what it is technically still. So I think that's the bottom line.
If you notice the teams that they've beaten as well, it's been the teams who haven't got an identity, like the Bucks.
And what's crazy, and to bring up what Daniel's point and your point, Rich, this has been the most different lineups that Steve Kerr has done. I mean, like there's been a shit ton of Frankenstein type of lineups where he started Kuminga at the center a couple of games and had Wiggins and Kuminga together in the same lineup, had Podzinski in there, Klay Thompson at the small forward. Like what I'm pretty sure Klay Thompson was at the power forward in one of the games.
He was
like that was like what are you doing? Like well it's just so weird. Like just throwing everything in the board. Like I don't know. I don't know.
That is crazy. Somehow they're over 500.
Like
Yeah,
all those lineups.
they're the 10th seed though, which is crazy because like there's been points in the season where it feels like they've done everything that they could, where it's like wow, it looks like they're finally gaining traction, and then it's like oh they're still the 10th seed, like we haven't moved at all.
That's okay because you got to remember you have the play-in and you have Stephen Curry. One game, Steph hasn't been that good so far. He lost to LeBron. He lost to John Morant. All you got to do is just hope the guy you don't play LeBron or Luka. Who's the other team that's in the play-in right now? It might be the Suns. Oh man, I don't know.
Yeah, that's tough. You're done.
Yeah, that's oh man.
Oh no, it's the Sacramento Kings.
Oh well, as long as it's not in Sacramento, you have a chance.
It will be in
I
Sacramento.
don't know. The Spurs without Wemby almost beat them if it wasn't for a under 1 minute collapse at the end when they were up by 5. But
in Sacramento,
in Sacramento, while De'Aaron Fox was fouled out.
Well, they're not that good at home. They're 17-11 at home and 19-5 on the ring.
But they'll get the calls at home. They'll get the calls
really
at home.
surprising.
That's the difference.
They're good in OT though. I see they're 4-1 in overtime. The Warriors, on the other hand, are 1-4 in overtime. God, dang. Y'all different, bro. But somehow y'all got a 17-16 record at home and a 16-13 record away. And y'all 7-3 in your last 10. I don't know, bro. Like y'all,
weird.
Y'all weird as hell.
It's
y'all
so
suck
weird.
in y'all division games. That's what's fucking y'all up. Y'all can't win in y'all division, but y'all division kind of deep. Y'all got the Clippers. Y'all got the Lakers. Y'all got the Sacramento Kings.
Yep, the Suns too.
Yo,
it kind of comes down to the same what we were talking about before. So basically, you need Steph Curry to be Steph Curry. You need Klay Thompson to be Klay Thompson. You need Draymond Green on there for situational defense at the end of games. If you haven't got those three things, you're not winning games. It's as simple as that. Like when it comes to the playoffs, there's no way you can win without those three things in sync. And I feel like that's what Kerr knows, and he's not even bothering to try and hide it.
What's that young boy name again?
Trace Jackson Davis. Their center.
Yeah, bro. Throw him in the lineup with those three and Jonathan Kuminga. Shit, let's see if some magic happens.
That's what I mean. So. On paper, they should be nice.
They over here trying to start Panoramsky. Like, bro, that little boy ain't that nice, bro. Y'all wasn't even starting Jordan Poole, bro.
It's time for the main event.
Time for the GOAT.
Jokic versus LeBron. There's been some discussion. Could Jokic be the GOAT? Will he be the GOAT when it's all said and done? And the fact that it's possible really says enough right there. Let's get to head-to-head first of all. Surprisingly, they are tied at 15-15 when they go head-to-head.
Beautiful. It's symbolic.
Jokic has won one more playoff game, and LeBron's won one in the regular season. But LeBron seems to turn it up every time he plays against Jokic. In terms of points, when they go head-to-head, LeBron has 26.7, Jokic has 21.5. Rebounds, LeBron has 8.4. Jokic has 10.4. Assists, which this is really interesting. LeBron has 8.6, and Jokic only has 7.2, which you say only for a center, but really only for Jokic. 7.2 is like nothing for him in terms of assists. Steals, LeBron has 1, Jokic has 1.4, and then blocks are 0.6 and 0.7. LeBron outscored him in 19 of their 30 games. 2 of the games they had the same scoring. So LeBron actually shows up surprisingly for Jokic games, because it's rare when LeBron is like, all right, let me really lock in and try to make my own statement. I don't see it happening a lot. But yeah, what are your guys' thoughts on that?
Like, we all know where I'm gonna go with this. Like, I love Jokic a lot. He's currently one of my favorite players to watch in the NBA, but I personally don't think that Jokic has had a season better than Bron's best season yet. There's a possibility that this season could be that if he can go into the season and win the championship and win the MVP. He's currently number one in the MVP race, in a close race in many people's eyes with SGA. But like, in LeBron's best season in many people's eyes, 2013, where you were one vote away from being unanimous MVP and Defensive Player of the Year in the same year, but one guy voted Melo, and the Defensive Player Award was not voted on by the same company of folks who voted on the All-Defensive Team, where LeBron was first team, and the winner of the award, Marc Gasol, was on the second team. Jokic has had a very dominant 2024 season, and he had a very dominant 2023 season, which was capped off with the dominant 4-1 victory over the Miami Heat. But LeBron's season ended with a Game 7 dagger in front of Kawhi and getting his second ring back-to-back against the great Tim Duncan, being the only man to blemish his finals record. Jokic and Bron right now on 2 different stratospheres in my eyes. Bron is chasing history, trying to bring the Lakers, a heavy underdog, back to the finals to grab his 5th ring and solidify his tenure with the Lakers. Jokic, on the other hand, is trying to make himself famous and prove to everyone that chip last year didn't go to him by mistake. He is going to try to do something that his counterparts have already done. And the deck might have gotten a little bit harder for him. But I know that the Jokic up for the task. And when it's all said and done, I expect Jokic to be up there with Bron on the all-time list. But he's still chasing that year where everyone agrees he's undoubtedly the best in the world, in my opinion.
Daniel, did you have anything to add before we get to Rich?
No, I mean, Cap pretty much nailed it on the head. I just go back to that 2013 season because the other day, this kind of has to do with Marc Gasol a little bit. I was watching Spurs Grizzlies Western Conference Finals highlights, and Marc Gasol was getting eaten alive in the post almost every time, and it made me feel like going back to like that whole regular season. I don't know how he won that award, but I guess like you said, I guess there are just different types of voters for DPOY award and all defensive team. That's insane to me. I feel like that should be consistent. Not only did that happen where he won DPOY and then he got all defensive second team, that happened to Tyson Chandler too.
Yes.
I remember being like, why did he win it if he's not even the best center? Like, just stuff like that just definitely ticks me off. Like, what the heck were we doing? But regardless, in LeBron and Jokic, that 2013 season, it just looked like LeBron was on another stratosphere. At his best shooting year too. Like, I feel like every time he shot a mid-range or 3, yeah, it was his best year from 3-point. Like, he was just unstoppable, offense, defense, and I think that's just the slight edge that LeBron has over Jokic in terms of their best seasons. And Jokic has kind of turned it up a little bit on the defensive end this year when it comes to strip steals, timing it right when someone gets the ball in the post. His defensive IQ is high for sure. I just don't think he'll ever get to that level like LeBron almost getting a DPOY. So in terms of best season, I still think it goes to LeBron. But like you said, I think Jokic could definitely get up there with LeBron because he's still chasing not only his best season, but just more accolades because he's a lot younger than LeBron. So, yeah.
Frito, anything to supplement, or should we just get right into the main event?
It's really interesting to just like it's an interesting topic to have. Really, I can't really give my own opinions until honestly the end of the season, in my opinion, just because like I think there's a lot to unfold, and I'm curious to see what Jokic is going to do in the playoffs after he won the championship last year. In my opinion, I just think it's really hard to compare these two players who have different games. LeBron is like electric. He puts on a performance, a show. He passes the ball, he dunks it, and then Jokic has like a basketball mind, like a savant. But you look at him and he looks like an average guy. Like he passes the ball the same way that LeBron does. He doesn't really like run to the basket. He's more crafty. Two different players. I agree with what Cap said. 2013 LeBron is insane. I went to a Mavericks game. I think that year, either 2013, 2014, and they played against the Heat. And Norris Cole stripped the ball. That sounds so weird to say. Norris Cole stripped a ball from one of the players of the Mavericks. I think it wasn't Dirk. It was somebody else. I don't remember who it was.
It's
But
probably Monte Ellis.
it was a half court pass to LeBron, and the second that LeBron was in the clear, everybody immediately stood up because we knew what was going to happen. Alley-oop to himself, and it was just amazing dunk, and everybody pulled out their phones. It was a showstopper every single game. So I don't know, man. It's just, I know it's just kind of a dud of a comment for me to say. It's just like, it's hard for me to compare these two players.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think before we get to Rich, our closer here, I did want to say that the original question, and correct me or perfect the wording if I'm wrong, Rich, but the original thing that brought this segment to light was Jokic's season last year better than any season LeBron has had? Because if we're doing it from a who's better and we're going historically, it's not really fair to Jokic because he still has so much more to go in terms of his career, and LeBron is 2 years max on his career. If that's the question, then it's like, well, LeBron's got the accolades, so it's not really a debate. But in terms of who's the best player based on who has had the best season, I think that's really the heart of the argument here. So without further ado, Rich, go ahead.
Where to start? Obviously, Cap made a good point as he always does. It all depends on how you view basketball and what's most important to you. And I'm not here to, there's going to be times when I'm going to go up against LeBron and call him out for things. 2013 is not one of those years that I'm going to do that. 2013 is one of the reasons why I feel LeBron has kind of not been as true to the game as he says he has, because when he can put it together like that, when he's trying on defense, when he's as offensively gifted as he is, if you're talking about regular season and playoffs, it's a better season than Jokic had last year. And I know this is a really weird point to start your debate by agreeing, but hear me out. Statistically, Jokic averaged 30 points. This was in the playoffs. 30 points, 13.5 rebounds, 9.5 assists. Had 10 triple-doubles and had a 30, 20, and 10 game in the finals. He was the statistical leader on points, rebounds, and assists. That has never been done. He did this without having what anyone would really class as a top 75 player. Now, I'm going to make a comparison here because you know me, I don't like playing safe. I'm going to tell it like it is. I think what we see when we see Jokic against LeBron is we see Magic against Larry Bird. LeBron more physically gifted, more flashy in terms of people will like to watch his style more highlight reel type plays and stuff like that. But then as intelligent a player as both Magic and LeBron were, Jokic and Bird just brings something different. A kind of basketball IQ that if you don't have that athleticism, you need to have that higher level of basketball IQ. And Jokic sees things. I don't think we've ever seen a player like him, the way he sees the court and the way he anticipates things. And so if you want to say LeBron's 2013 whole season, regular season and playoffs was better, then I can't disagree with that. He was the best player at both ends of the court. He was completely dominant. He deserved every accolade that was given to him that season, and that's the best season that unanimously everyone says. I don't know why he didn't win unanimous MVP that year. Maybe someone else can explain that to me, but I just don't think there's an argument. But the fact that Jokic didn't even win and wasn't trying to win MVP in 2023, but then just flipped the switch and didn't become the best player in the world, but showed everyone without a shadow of a doubt that he was the best player in the world. It's just a different way of doing it. He's not interested in winning MVPs. The fact that he wins MVPs without being interested kind of tells you the level that you're dealing with. LeBron absolutely wants every accolade, and you can look at that whichever way you want. You can either say that's the way it should be, and you're cheating the game otherwise. To some degree, I kind of agree with that with Jokic. But for me, it's always going to be about the playoffs, and I've never seen a better, not even statistically, but just in terms of who he was up against, who was supporting cast, where the way he completely dominated from start to finish, I've never seen a better playoffs. So for me, where it matters most, his season was better than LeBron's. If you want to talk about the whole thing, I can't argue. But if you want to talk about just the playoffs, where it matters the most, I'm taking Jokic.
I think that's completely fair. Watching the Nuggets play these last few weeks has got me thinking. I think immediately when you ask who has had the better teams, you would immediately say, "Oh, LeBron." But watching Jamal Murray go off and Aaron Gordon going from a forgettable role player, besides his dunk contest, obviously, that's kind of what kept him in the spotlight, if you can even say he was in the spotlight. But in Denver, he has found the perfect role to where they're utilizing him like no other player. I can't think of a better comp for a better fit in terms of turning an okay role player into maybe the best, one of the best third options in the league, fourth option if you count Michael Porter, which is another underrated addition. People say, like, imagine if he didn't have 4 back surgeries, the Nuggets might have the greatest team ever. But then again, who knows if they even get him at that point. But still, the fact that he's shooting perfect games, going 5 from 5 from 3, 10 for 10 overall. The team is very underrated, and that's without going into their bench, to their severely underrated players like Peyton Watson and Christian Brown. Guys that the casual fan don't even know exist are better than most role players on your regular NBA team. So I think it's gone from like, oh, it's obviously LeBron to I think it's a question now. Is this Jokic team better than the teams LeBron has had? Like, obviously, you go to, what's his best Miami team, like 2013, 2014?
I would say 2013, the year that he won the 12-13. So you had Ray Allen,
So
Shane Battier, Chris Bosh,
was Mike Miller
Norris
still there?
Cole, who we just spoke about.
Yeah.
Mike Miller was still there. Yeah, obviously he had Dwayne Wade, James Jones, Rashad Lewis. I think they're very similar in terms of the depth. Juwan Howard's another one. Joel Anthony, Chris Anderson. Like, wherever you looked, they had the kind of role players that you need. I actually agree with you in terms of the Nuggets are vastly underrated, but it's the idea that he makes everyone so much better. Like, the players that played for the Heat, in terms of Bosh and Wade and Ray Allen, they'd already proven themselves before they got there.
I mean,
The players that play around Jokic, they all took a step up when they were on the court with Jokic. And it's not a coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, even Mike Miller and Shane Battier were already established, but I'm trying to narrow down the LeBron teams that we would compare. So it's like 2013 Miami, and then which Cavs team, like 2016 or 2017 for their best roster?
Oh, we're talking Cavs as well. It was 16, wouldn't it? 16, 17.
Probably 16.
16, and then Lakers is probably not even worth, because it was.
No, that 2020 Lakers team was fire.
I think compared to the Nuggets though, and the Cavs and Heat team though, I don't think they have a chance. That's just me though. I don't know. I kind of underrate AD, so I guess it depends on how much you value his contribution. But in terms of those 4 teams, I guess 2020 Lakers, 2016 Cavs, 13 Heat, and 2023 Nuggets, which include Bruce Brown, I forgot as well. So that's another piece. Which of those is like the best team, I guess?
See, I'm going to shock you. I think it's Bubble Lakers.
Wow.
I think when you take into account playoff Rondo,
a really good team, bro.
playoff Rondo, Howard turning the clock back, they're 2 huge difference makers.
Wow. I thought for sure the Bubble Lakers would have been overlooked. But Daniel, what do you think? Who's the best team out of those 4?
I think it has to be it's between the 2016 Cavs and the 2020 Lakers, but
Oh wait, best team.
Yes.
I thought you meant best supporting cast. Oh no, best team.
Is that not
probably
the same
Heat?
thing?
No. Best team including the. Well, I mean, I would say best team is a supporting cast. Like, that's what we're saying. Like, who's had it easier in terms of the players around them were better.
I mean, I feel like LeBron easily had it easier when it comes to championships.
Yeah, I agree.
But I mean, throughout his whole career, Jokic has always had pretty decent rosters. They just had to figure themselves out. It was a lot of injuries. Jamal Murray missed 2 years. Michael Porter with all the back injuries. LeBron in them early years had shit teams. We already know that. Took him to where he took him to. But once he figured out how to construct teams, what he did in Miami in 2012 and in 2013 to a higher degree. He was just always able to construct a team that would be able to win championships for 1 to 2 years, never really being able to figure out the long-term thing. He might have had it in 2019 with the Lakers, but due to the fact that him, Ingram, and Lonzo all got hurt all at the same time, he just looked at it like, I can't really trust this process because my body is also deteriorating. And I don't know if I can trust these young guys to stay healthy, but I can trust Anthony Davis, who has never had a major injury, has always had little minor knick-knack injuries, but never nothing major where he's missing a significant amount of time, 2-3 seasons in a row, like Alonzo has, and even Brandon Ingram to a lesser degree, and Julius Randle, who's another guy that he had on that team. So with that situation, it's going to be a little bit harder for LeBron to really trust the process, especially when at the time he was turning 35, 36 years old. So he didn't have a whole lot of time to trust that Brandon Ingram could become the player that he is right now, or trust that Lonzo could change his shot and become one of the best defenders in the NBA. So he had to make the adjustments that he had to make. And that 2020 team, like Rich said, was a lot better than people really understand, because even my cousin sat here and said that the reason why Jokic is the player that he is because the NBA pushed out a lot of big men like Dwight Howard, who were giving Jokic a lot of problems. Like Dwight Howard, he made his bread and butter off of guarding Jokic. They told him, we're not going to need you in the finals. We're going to be fine. But we need you to play your best defense on Jokic. And that's what he did. Jokic still was being Jokic, but that wasn't the same Jokic that we see now. And yeah, it may be a little bit of a conspiracy, but I look at it and I kind of understand where he's coming from. All those brute type centers that we had in the last decade, I know it's not a whole lot of them, but to add to that with the big men that we have now, it would have been good for these big men to learn to be a little bit stronger, a little bit tougher. The Zach Randolphs and of the world and those type of guys, they pushed those guys out very early, and they weren't really able to really showcase their style of basketball in today's NBA, because I still feel like there is a space for those type of power forwards and centers, because at the end of the day, if the three not hitting, you need to be able to step up and hit a midi, and a lot of these guys are just not capable of doing that because they don't know how to adjust their shot a certain way, because they're just accustomed to just either shooting threes or going for layups.
Yeah, I do agree, but at the same time, if the game was different, then Jokic would just adapt and he'd probably be like a stretch four. So there'd still be a place for him because he is just so uniquely skilled. The difference is because we've got rid of those bruises because of the way the NBA's gone, Jokic is able to now just bully people in the paint as well. So it's like a pick your poison. You can't beat him physically, and he's still gonna have, he's got like those crazy post moves that you think you've got him, and he just one step and he's gone. He's not explosive, he's not athletic. We all know this, but he'll get you off your feet or he'll send you the wrong way, and you can't stop him. And Dwight Howard did a fantastic job on him, probably the best we've ever seen, but that wasn't the Jokic that we know today. He's rounded out his game a lot more, and he's a lot more physically strong. I'm not saying he would be able to bully Dwight Howard, but it wouldn't be the same kinds of contest.
Who had the best team, not counting Jokic and LeBron themselves? The 2023 Nuggets, the 2016 Cavs, the 2020 Lakers, or did I already say the 13 Heat?
No, I didn't, but all right. So if it's crazy, I didn't even answer that question. If I had to pick who has the best cast when I'm looking at everything down the line, because I love my Cavs team, but there was something about Kevin Love that was really rubbing me the wrong way in 2016. J.R. Smith was hit or miss. Amon Shumpert was, the way he talks a great game, boy. You would think Amon Shumpert was the best defender in the NBA, the way he be talking. But Shump was a hell of a guy. He gave good energy. Even crazy, we had Mo Williams on that team. But that bench, it was good at times, but it could be poor at times, because a lot of times when we needed guys to hit those threes, it was coming from the starting lineup. It was coming from Kyrie. It was coming from K-Love. It was coming from J.R. Smith, who sometimes would come off the bench. Dellavedova wasn't the same Dellavedova that he was in 2015. So I look at that 2013 Miami team. When you look at that team with Shane Battier, Mike Miller, Ray Allen, Udonis Haslam, Chris Bosh, D Wade, like those guys. The only thing that kept Miami from being the best team of all time was the fact that D Wade and LeBron were two players that just did not enjoy being outside of the 3-point line. Those guys wanted to be either in the dunker spot or in that mid range. It messed up the spacing. The difference between that team and the 2016 team is everybody could sit at the top of the fucking three and just make moves when they needed to. Like Bron would tell Shump, yo, take your man with you. I don't care if he comes up. If he comes up, I'm gonna just send it to you. You're gonna have an easy dunk. Or you can just keep going all the way to the other corner and you're gonna have an easy three. Everybody was able to get into that role and be able to play well. So that's why a lot of times we didn't even need Tristan Thompson on the floor, because he's not going to shoot any threes. So you just have him coming off the bench. You have him playing with that second unit. We'll run a pick and roll with him, and he'll be good. He get us an extra rebound, get it back out to the top of the key, and that guy might end up hitting the three. So when I look at that, I look at it like, what do you rather have? Do you rather have a situation where you can have guys just being able to throw alleys like it's nothing, or do you like to have that ball movement where the ball doesn't have to touch the ground and it could still end up with an alley-oop in the air, or it could end up with a Kyrie Irving three off of the jab step? I look at 2016 a little bit more highly, mainly because I'm a Cavs fan, but at the same time, for them to be able to work, it really had to be, they had to trust each other. D Wade and Bron had a trust way before they even became teammates. So their chemistry was going to be good no matter what. Kyrie and LeBron's chemistry literally came off the fly. In my eyes, it came off the fly. It was just based off of two guys just being so much better than everybody else that they could just bounce off of each other and make the shit work. So I'm gonna go with 2016.
Okay. Anybody else? Which of the four teams would y'all pick?
I'll keep mine quick. So basically, I've got two answers: 2013 and 2020. And the reason is because 2013, I believe, is the best balance of talent, experience, chemistry, all of it together. And 2020 is just the best in terms of X factor. When you've got playoff Rondo and playoff Dwight Howard turning the clock back, that's tough for anyone to deal with, especially when you've already got LeBron and AD out there, J.R. Smith, players who've been there, done it, know what it's all about. Very tough to beat.
Can't even get mad at that answer, because when you really look at it, that team really did just have everything you needed at that point. Because like, we all look at that team and we're like, none of those guys can shoot threes, but when LeBron James is hitting his 3-point shot at 35%, AD's hitting his 3-point shot at 37%, Rondo's hitting his three at like 39%. Guys that you would not look at as 3-point shooters are hitting the three ball so well that at that point in time, they were 3-point shooters. So they're spacing the floor and making it easy for JaVale McGee and Dwight Howard to get in the paint and get easy lob. It was just bread and butter, bro. It was really smooth every time. There was no problems for that Lakers team. And I do believe if you have it in a regular playoff setting and they're playing the Clippers and the Bucks instead of playing the Nuggets and the Heat, it's the same thing. It's still going to be bread and butter, LeBron and AD, and you're not going to be able to stop Rondo and Dwight Howard coming off your bench. It's just not going to.
Richie, Daniel, what about y'all? What team would y'all pick as the best, not including Jokic or LeBron?
2013, probably for me. Just because I immediately canceled out 2016 simply because of the 3-1 comeback.
Shut up, Richie.
Because of the 3-1 comeback, I feel like it was an anomaly. We didn't expect it to happen. So it wasn't just because of like, it takes a lot for a team to do this. It's specifically because of that team. It was a very impressive feat that they were able to do. But at the same time, it's very unexpected that specifically that team was able to do it. Kyrie and LeBron were fantastic in that season. But like, the X factor beyond that was probably Tristan Thompson with the defense and the rebounding. So I don't know. For me, I would have to really just look at it's the best player that matters. I mean, I don't really want to talk about LeBron in 2013. But I mean, he was phenomenal, and I mean, that supporting cast was very, very, very good. And I remember around the time whenever I started seriously getting into basketball during that era, like I took a look at that year and I was just like, this team is insane. Um, sure, 2020 was fantastic as well, but just like I think it just comes down to the bubble setting, and the question is, would they be able to rise to the occasion outside of a bubble setting? So I don't know. We'll never know.
I would say for me, it's also between 13 and 20. Also, because I witnessed firsthand in 2013 how the Spurs Heat finals, the team won every other game. I remember there was one specific game in that finals series where the Heat were in danger going down 3-1. This is also back then when the finals were 2-3-2. This was the last year the finals were 2-3-2. So that means games 3 through 5 were in San Antonio. So game 4, I just remember people being like, well, so far it's just only been LeBron. D Wade's kind of been struggling a little bit. And D Wade just turned it on. It's hard to say vintage D Wade because it was 2013, but it was like reminiscent of like prime 2009 D Wade or something. Like I was like, yeah, it's just when it comes down to it, even like the most beautiful brand of basketball, sometimes somehow talent triumphs over that. So I just use that game as an example of like every other game. Even though like how Richie said 2016 was an anomaly and he cancels it out because of 3-1. I sometimes cancel out that team just because of the Ray Allen shot, because that's just ridiculous. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. Anyway, um, game 7 though, that whole game was LeBron proving you can't use any narrative against him anymore. But if the question is like best supporting
That's
cast,
true.
it's like I said, it's 13 or 20. I just feel like the great role players that the Heat had with Shane Battier and Mike Miller losing his freaking shoe and still hitting threes. Like, what are we doing? I have to go with 2013, as much as it pains me to say it.
And it's funny because like that game 7 wasn't even close.
For
And I
which-
hate to say it as well, but
was
that
close.
3 points from
Oh,
Ray Allen should
the
never have
Spurs.
happened.
Yeah.
Wait, sorry, Rich. Game 7, Heat Spurs.
That
What do you
was
mean?
close.
That was like
Wasn't
back
it?
and forth. It was back and forth, back and forth.
Didn't Tim Duncan miss a layup?
Tim
and
Duncan
that's
missed.
what fucked it up.
Dan Lebatard show likes to bring up that Tim Duncan missed a bunny. It would have tied the game, and then the Heat went up 4 with the LeBron dagger.
Oh,
over
that's
Kawhi.
right.
I'm about to say
I don't know.
LeBron,
I don't know
literally
what.
said that shit
Hold
in
up.
my opening speech. LeBron had a dagger. You know what? And I just want to say this, Richie. Shut up, because if KD didn't go to the
We
Warriors,
love each other.
we would have showcased that we do have the best supporting cast, because we would have went back to back, baby. Because
There's a-
that team in
yeah.
2017 had the best offense that we ever seen.
Oh, here he
Until the
goes.
Mavericks came around in 2020
Yeah,
and
they
showed
were
us
good.
something different with Luka and Kristaps Porzingis. But the 2017 Cavaliers was the best offense in NBA
So-
history. And the only
so what
reason
you
why we
saying,
won the
Kyle?
championship is because you motherfuckers added an extra 35 points to your line.
So what you're saying is, if it was different, it would have been different.
It would have been
That's
different.
your argument.
Yep, if it was different, it would have been super different.
Quality.
Oh, that's what makes it different.
So I think y'all are undervaluing the Nuggets, but I still think it's probably 2013. Even if Jokic is the one making all those players better, and he's the reason why they're so good, they still get that credit for living up to that, for being able to be made good. Just because they're in the perfect situation, I don't think that devalues them as a team. So I think it's a toss-up between the 23 Nuggets and the 13 Heat.
If you take Jokic out of that team, where do you think that team finishes in the West?
I think they're still a playoff team.
Like 8th? I don't know. I mean,
So
probably
if you
worse
take
than
LeBron out of the Heat, where do you think they finish?
Probably the same.
probably
That's
where they
still a
finished
playoff.
the year before, which was
Interesting.
what?
See, I
Was that
think the
out?
Heat are a better team without LeBron than the Nuggets are without Jokic, but that's just my opinion.
Very, very slightly though, because Jokic did have like probably the best array of role players you got ask for. You got Bruce Brown, Caldwell Pope, and Uncle Jeff Green all putting in that work
that's-
with Michael Porter Jr.
you-
and Gordon. That's a really
You kind of told on yourself there, though, Cap, because you literally said role players, Dwayne
Yeah,
Wade and
the
Chris
best-
Bosh,
yeah, the best
and
role
role
players.
players.
Man,
Yeah,
Shane Battier
Dwayne
is a
Wade and
role
Chris
player,
Bosh. Yeah, but Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh aren't.
bro. Chris Bosh was a role player at that time.
As much as any third option is, right? I mean, he was fulfilling his role. Wade was having.
But he's good enough to be a first option, whereas who on the Nuggets? Okay, Jamal Murray maybe, but it wouldn't be your a really promising choice to have him as your first option, would it? Whereas Chris Bosh as a first option with Wade as a second, or Wade as a first option and Bosh as a second, to me, that's a lot more enticing.
In terms of just getting a bucket, I think Jamal Murray might be the second best scorer besides Kyrie out of all those players, besides LeBron and Jokic.
Yeah, definitely.
In terms of,
Maybe,
like,
but I
getting
mean,
30
like in terms of everything that it entails, not just score. I shouldn't have said option because option makes you think of scoring options. I mean, like as a player,
I think he
two-way
probably
player.
also, let's see, where would he rank playmaking wise? Dwayne's a better playmaker. Kyrie's a better playmaker.
I think Jamal would probably rank too. I think he's a slightly better playmaker than Kyrie. Slightly. Because
So-
him and Jokic's pick and roll would still work if it's him and Aaron Gordon, in my opinion.
So you'd rather have, let's say, Murray and Gordon over Bosh and Wade.
I mean, Bosh and Wade should be able to work because Chris Bosh is a way better mid-range jump shooter. So, like, that pick and pop should be able to work way better than the pick and pop.
This is what I'm saying.
Well, if you're talking
This is what I'm
about
saying. If
as-
you only had an option of two, you take those two for me.
I mean,
Easy,
now,
it depends.
you still got
second thought.
You still got Michael Porter Jr. there that makes the biggest difference.
But also, if you're going with just two players and you're talking about how you want to play them, with Dwayne and Bosh, you just go under the screen every time and you let Wade shoot the three.
That is also true, especially at that time.
Even though they're the better players in this day and age, I think I might. I mean, I wouldn't, because the difference between Bosh and Gordon is still very big. Bosh is a much better shooter than Gordon, so it probably still would lean towards Wade and Bosh, but I think it's almost a toss-up.
I just think like
interesting.
And to defeat one would be way easier than the game plan to defeat the other. That's why 2013 kind of almost got the unanimous pick over here. Like, because like it's just like when you really think about it, that team had everything that it needed to win the championship that year. It's just they played a team that literally had everything it needed to win the championship that year as well. They just had to go 7. There was just two teams that were just perfect. Same thing with the 2016 team. There was two teams that were really just perfect.
Yeah, this is the problem with the 2013 team is it only works with LeBron because LeBron was basically the de facto point guard. So
Correct.
when you put Mario
Mario
Chalmers in or Norris Cole instead, it loses a lot of its luster, that team. Do you know what I mean? But I think it would have been easy with the amount of cap space that they would have had. But like, it's going too deep into it then. But for me, it's I've got to say 2013. I just think,
is it crazy?
Whatever way you look at it, 2013 ticks every box.
Is it crazy that I forgot that Norris Cole and Mario Chalmers were the point guards of that team? Because I named all the role players.
It was Mario Chalmers, Norris Cole, Chris Anderson, Birdman.
Norris Cole and Mario Chalmers.
Yeah, Mario Chalmers, underrated, Kansas legend. That's going to just about do it. Thank y'all for watching the NBA segment of Let's Get Crackin'. We'll see you over at NFL next.
Woohoo!
All right.
Much love.